Good morning and welcome. This is Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV, where Ballot 2017 coverage of the general election and its aftermath continues. I'm Udwaka Mimo. Now, 3 days into the week after the declaration that President Uhuru Kenyatta has won a second term in office, Kenyans refused to boycott work on Monday, as requested by NASA Principal Raila Odinga. He has postponed the big announcement that was scheduled for yesterday, keeping the country guessing. But also yesterday, the baby allegedly clobbered by police in Kisumu, Samantha Pendo, died, and 2 civil society organizations have been shut down. So, whither Kenya? Well, today's guest is Dr. Wandia Njoya, the head of Language and Arts Department at Daystar University. And we also have with us, as you can see, our panelists, Mutegi Njau and Charles Odhiambo, both of Royal Media Services, who will be sharing their opinions with us as well. So, good morning and welcome. So first, our condolences to the families of baby Pendo and the young girl shot in the chest while playing, I think in Mathare it was, Samantha Makoya. I'll start with our guest, gentlemen. This has been quite a week for us. Would you say it's the usual stuff of Kenya or something more going on?
This is not usual, but we are not surprised. We kept saying that
Who's we?
Kenyans, that this would be the regular, you know, this is what we go through every 5 years. It's just that this time it always feels more intense when you're going through it, but this is what we go through every 5 years.
Panelists, Mutegi?
I think, as she said, we were expecting that, but
the baby dying, the girl who was killed?
You know, 2013, we didn't fight. We went to the Supreme Court, we didn't fight.
The opposition leader, Raila Odinga?
The Kenyans went to court. This time, we decided we wouldn't go to court. It is not an option, because we have been there before, so we are told. And therefore, the fighting, because if we had gone to court, there wouldn't have been any fight. The fighting because we are unhappy. 2013, when we lost, we were still unhappy, but we didn't fight.
But 2013 was different because we had a new constitution and there was hope that we were in a new era. But, you know, we soon learned that nothing much had changed in terms of the institutional logic. And so it's not surprising that people don't have any trust in the institutions anymore. But
and that's what I said last week when we were here. I said the question is a question of trusting.
You didn't say that you were told that because you and Charles had different opinions, and our guest, Dr. Odote, pointed out that there was lack of trust between Kenyans because, you know, we see things and experience things.
I was talking about trusting our institutions. Trusting
the institutions.
But I also don't think that...
Let me pause you so that I can hear from Charles what you make of this week so far, 3 days in.
I don't agree with what Dr. Wandia and Mutegi is saying, that this is usual expected. The last time we expected this was during the Moi rule. We expected institutions, a crackdown on institutions being deregistered, presumably because they want to proceed with certain cases. You all of a sudden see the media just muzzled completely and locked out completely. You see the media, members of the press arrested just because they appear. I mean, how dangerous is a bulletproof vest as compared to a gun or a panga?
And you're referring to the arrest, or the apprehension of Duncan Hayemba in Kibera, I believe it was, because he was wearing a bulletproof vest
and a helmet. And they were insisting that you must be carrying a license always whenever you have this, because they are categorized as firearms. And again, something unusual. After a very long time, despite the fact that the trust on the media was very high, this year it just slumped completely. Every member of the public, whichever divide, is heaping it on the media. Oh, you're not telling us this. Oh, you're not doing this. The expectations are just too high, especially on the conventional media. So to me, it's not usual.
It's not the usual stuff of Kenyan society.
Well, we saw this coming. Even, what, a month before the vote, we could see this coming because we already knew that the media had been prevented from reporting the results from the constituencies. So this is not coming as a surprise. And even when there was the crackdown on the NGOs, the reaction on social media was like, okay, here we go. We saw this coming, and especially when you look at the vote, we expect even more crackdown and more limitations on our freedoms and all the gains that we made with the new constitution. So we should be expecting more of this in the next 5 years.
Did you see learning institutions being ordered not to reopen as we speak? All the universities in Kenya,
Department of Learning Institutions.
Yeah, there are institutions that had opened on Monday. They were asked to close until further notice.
Well, it's the typical, although I have to be very careful talking about universities because that's where I earn my bread. But, you know, there has been a very increasing hardline stances from the government when it comes to universities. We're getting more directives from the ministry that we didn't used to see before the Uhuru administration. So that did not come as a surprise to me.
But this is going backwards. Universities have their programs. When the minister says university can't be open, they don't have the same system. They have programs, they have timetables to accomplish.
But there was a University Act that we passed a few years ago that put more and more powers in the government to determine what happens in the universities. And because universities tend to be more isolated, the public didn't notice that something was going wrong. But, you know, the freedoms, academic freedom has been increasingly limited. We have seen more marketization of universities. So, you know, this is not surprising that we are now being regulated like businesses, really. So the directive did not surprise me.
No,
and we expect more of this.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, look, after the promulgation of the new constitution 2010, we thought we had gotten rid of so many things. Crackdown on the media, authoritarianism on institutions of learning, the use of every available means to make sure that the country remains peaceful. And I put that in quotes because peace is relative here. Would you say there is peace when a 6-month-old baby is clobbered to death allegedly? Would you say there is peace when a 9-year-old girl is shot when playing in the balcony?
But to me, we are going backwards. This business of I've seen people in the social media suggesting, for instance, that we want progress, we want development. Therefore, in fact, we can do away with those evil society, they call them, not civil society, evil society, so that we concentrate on development. Then I say, this is Moism. We are going back to Moise times. Every step I see is going backwards. All the gains we gained, despite the constitution. Can you imagine government saying newspapers or media cannot tally? And we go by that. Because we ordered. We said, if you give your tally, that's why you see people saying, that, in fact, I don't know why the people are blaming the media. Because you are capped. There's nothing you can do.
Exactly. I work in the media and I've been asking people, is the media IEBC? How did you expect us to give results if we are not legally allowed to give results?
If we're going backwards, at what point did we start going backwards?
We can tell from when we have this new government, from when you saw the president saying, although he owns a media house, then what does that mean? Although I've seen his TV and his newspapers, they're doing very well. But why that?
I think we went back when we had 2 suspects of crimes against humanity on the ballot because it was a clear violation of the Constitution. From then on, we have been conceding so many of the gains that we had made because, you know, once you open that door, it's very hard to close it, and the door has just got wider with this election, unfortunately.
And more especially when they were absolved of blame and being free again, then it simply meant it doesn't matter whatever happens, you have your rights to be innocent.
And also it was a clear disrespect for the people of Kenya, because I remember at that time people were saying crimes against humanity are very serious. For the sake of the people of Kenya, sort these matters out, get acquitted if you're going to get acquitted, and then come back. But because the people of Kenya did not matter then, now they don't matter anymore.
But the people of Kenya are the ones who are voting for them. How do you say the margin between the opposition, if the IBC is correct, the margin is bigger than 2013. And so the same people, the same Kenyans whose rights are being trampled, they are the same ones given the bigger mandate.
And so I think that answers your question very well. When did we start going back? We started going back the moment Kenyans decided not to care about their future. The moment Kenyans decided not to appreciate the gains they had made as far as the growth and development of the country is concerned.
Is that a bit harsh, given that if you were to look at you know, the voting patterns across the country, yes, there are people who surprised us, you know, without naming names, you might want to name them. And there are others where we see that some of the strengths, the gains that we've been making are being entrenched. The numbers of women, the numbers of youth who were elected. So when you say that Kenyans don't care about the future, which Kenyans are you talking about?
Numbers of women is quite ironical, because as we speak, apparently there are only 96 elected MCAs out of the possible 1,600 and over. So what does that mean? We are going to spend more as taxpayers in making sure that we meet the gender balance, the gender parity.
Which of course has to do with Parliament again.
Yes, which of course affects the National Assembly and affects
it affects both houses, but both houses also failed to comply with the Constitution, which is why we find ourselves in this mess. So look, there's a lot of criticism I'm hearing from you guys around you know, the Jubilee administration and what's been happening this week and going back into the previous week. Given your criticism, what advice would you have? You know, President Kenyatta hasn't yet been sworn in for his second term. No one's been sworn in yet. What would you say?
President Kenyatta has a chance to leave a legacy. What will he be remembered for? Will he be remembered for taking Kenya back so many years? Or will he be remembered for being the person who fought corruption and kicked it out of the society, albeit to a certain percentage? Will he be remembered for entrenching the rights of the Wananchi and empowering them? Or will he be remembered for the death of a 6-month-old baby?
But judging by what Duale said, we don't expect that to happen, because they are
majority leader.
He says the first thing they do is crack down on the Auditor General. It looks like since they have the more tyranny of numbers, what they want to do is they can even change the Constitution. In fact, all they need to do is buy a few fellows and change. Even if we want to get a third term, they can do it. It is possible.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But for me, I have really no advice to the government. I have advice to the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya must take back our gains. The gains, we fought 20 years for this constitution. How can we just relinquish all that we have done? And I think we Kenyans are the ones who are going to have to really follow up on this government. We're going to have to check the bills that they are putting into Parliament. And basically we're going to be doing double work, and work which we thought we had finished in 2010. But we are just back to the drawing board, and we will just have to keep on checking what these politicians are doing, which is not fair, because while we are earning our taxes and paying them for these politicians to do their work, now they've gone out of control, which is not fair to the Kenyan people. So really, the next 5 years is about us. It's not about the politicians, because at least from the results we have been given, we are just, it seems like we are on our own. Some of which are still coming. We are on our own.
Mutegi, your advice for the administration, because you've talked about your fears, given the start.
My advice would be this, like he says, Uhuru Kenyatta, the president-elect, is not going back. If he wants to leave a legacy, he should stop this, what is happening now. He should know that he's the president of Kenya and act the president and give us what belongs to us.
But how can that likely to happen, given, you know, as you say, his strengthened majority in both houses?
He should use that majority to improve the country.
The freedom of a second term, hopefully, you know, complying with the constitution, he will not be seeking a third term, as African presidents are wont to do. And so he has the liberty to impose his will. And not have to horse trade, you know, which he complained about during his last term.
And that's
he would try to do things, and we would see him try to do things, try to whip people into shape, and they'll do their own thing.
And that's why I say he has a chance to leave a legacy. Because last time, you remember during the corruption, the anti-corruption conference at State House, his question, what do you want me to do? Because he says he has to follow the law. Now he has the majority in the house where the laws are made. So if the law is not suitable enough to help him fight corruption, he has the numbers to change it and make it suitable enough. Yeah.
And yet here we are waiting for Raila Odinga to say something. So how is he going to leave a legacy when clearly yet he still doesn't have the moral legitimacy? People are still waiting for Raila to speak. What does that say about how he is starting his term? It clearly isn't on a good foot, and we're going to be catching up again, which was what was happening from 2013. We're going to still be catching up, trying to find his legitimacy. By the time 2022 comes, then they'll start telling us, let's change the constitution so that we can give him another chance.
Dr. Njohi, you're very critical of the Jubilee administration, but what about the NASA side? Do you not have any strong words for them?
First of all, we had one government and one government in power, so I cannot criticize them equally, because NASA was not in government for me to say that they should have done ABC and they didn't do, because they were not in government.
But you talked about moral legitimacy.
Yes.
And we know that there's been violence. In spite of what we've been told, we have seen people dying, children dying.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you not think that NASA, to some extent, given the ambiguity that they have kept their supporters in, do deserve some tongue lashing, as it were, for not being clearer about their position, for not being clearer with the supporters about what sort of behavior they expected from them?
But I thought Jubilee won, so they're in government, so they are the people who are ruling Kenya. So why do we still need to go back to the opposition, which they say did not win enough seats to be in the next government? So for me, this is an ambiguity. Why are we still waiting for somebody who we are told didn't win to say something about the country when there is a sitting president? Let the president tell us what it is that he wants, but he can't say. It's another sasa mnataka nifanye nini, because he's basically telling us to wait for Raila to speak, which doesn't make sense if the result is legitimate.
But like William Ruto, the deputy president, once said, these people, even NASA, are they any better than Jubilee? Most of them. All of them have been in government. What changes did they make? Kalonzo was vice president, Raila was prime minister. What difference when they were there?
Kenyatta was finance minister.
No. So the argument is, even they, even if they won, would they have been?
We can't fall into that trap. We can't fall into that trap. These guys have been in the government. Yes. They were not the leadership. We had an absolute presidency then. When Kalonzo Musyoka was in the government, he was vice president, not deputy president. He was operating at the whims of the president.
And even then has to do with the way the opposition has conducted themselves thus far. If we're able to criticize the incumbent administration just for the events of this week.
So what has NASA got to do with the street battles between some rowdy youth and the police? Remember, the last time they appeared in public, Kalonzo Musyoka is on record as having said, "We urge you to keep your peace. We will tell you what's next." Has NASA told anybody to go to the streets? No. And what has NASA got to do with police officers kicking down doors and beating people inside their houses? Yet they have been told, stay inside your house.
And in fact, they said please don't go out, because the force that will wait for you outside, you cannot match it. So it's better to stay at home. And in fact, some of the pictures that were released by this journalist from, I think, Washington Post, it was of a gentleman going with his daughter to church. So that was not a protest. And then later on we hear people were protesting and they were shot down. But I don't want to get into the, NASA is not better than Jubilee, because for me the elections were not about who is better than the other. It was about what do the people of Kenya want. That was the point. And in fact, people used to ask me, but these leaders have been in government before, are they going to be better? My answer was, what matters is us, the people who put them there. If we feel confident that the people who have won are the people we put there, then there's a different dispensation, which was what the Constitution was about. There is a different dispensation than when we have this current feeling that some people have won and the others have completely lost. This is not a good way going forward. Whether Jubilee or NASA are good or not doesn't matter. What matters is where are the people of Kenya, and right now we are a nation divided. There are some people who feel that they have completely lost, and there are others who have felt that they've gotten a blank slate. The contrast is too great for us to move forward.
That contrast that you talk about, Dr. Njoya, doesn't it, you say it has nothing to do with the leaders on either side, but it has everything to do with the way they conduct themselves, the messages, overt or covert, that they send to their supporters. Think about it. We're a nation divided, and the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, we're still waiting to hear from him. He calls for a boycott of work on Monday, and Kenyans, if you recall, there was hardly any activity last week. Kenyans are so tired of the tension, they go to work. So how can you say that, that they bear, NASA and Raila Odinga bear no responsibility for the divisions we see in our society?
No, to that extent, they do bear responsibility. Your earlier question was in reference to the running battles and the police clobbering people and the alleged killings and stuff. But to the extent of raising the tension, declaring that people don't go to work on Monday after people had wasted the whole of last week, to that extent, they bear full responsibility.
I don't even know whether I would call it responsibility. There was a weakness in that call, in that most Kenyans are informally employed. So they're not going to receive, they are receiving salaries on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So it probably wasn't very practical to tell people not to go to work, because how do they put food on the table? So I think that was, I concede it was not well thought out. But for me, I sit here as a Kenyan and articulating what I feel and what I have seen others feel, that we are being held hostage to the political class because they can't agree on the modalities of moving on, and that is something that I feel is not fair and it's not right. If somebody claims that they won the election fairly, why are we still waiting for an opposition leader to speak? That's my main question.
The president is not waiting for anything. It's the Constitution. What it says? It says when the Electoral Commission, IBC, announces how many days to stay, who wants to petition. That's what we're waiting for.
Yes, so let's wait it out until it's just till Friday. Let's wait.
But we are being diverted by being told don't go to work.
But what I have said is that you can't expect Kenyans not to go to work, because unlike all the claims we've been told about employment going up, Kenyans cannot afford not to go to work. Most Kenyans can't afford not to go to work. So I think I concede that probably was not well thought out. But right now we are waiting for an opposition leader. Even the international media is telling us that diplomats are talking about an opposition leader. I thought an election was held and someone won.
So if you're President Uhuru Kenyatta, what would you do?
You wait, respect the Constitution, wait for the 7 days. Let's wait till Friday. This is not about Raila Odinga, it's about the Constitution. The Constitution says we have until Friday to challenge. Anyone can challenge. It doesn't have to be him. It can be civil society. It could be me. Who knows? So we have until Friday.
If I was president,
the Constitution says we wait. So even him, he's mandated by the Constitution to wait. But now starting to look for scapegoats. No. Wait for the constitution. That's why we put it there.
You seem to be placing President Kenyatta in a catch-22, because I think when he says, let's hear from Raila, I think that's respect for the stature of the former Prime Minister, and, you know, pays homage to the role that Mr. Odinga has played in Kenyan society, championing democracy within our African context. Yes, you know, this is what the Constitution says, but also, this was my worthy opponent. I would like to hear from him first.
For starters, people, we need to understand and accept the fact that there is no vacuum. President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta is still the president. So when the national, the NGO's management board decides to crack down on organizations that seem to bring out the truth, under his reign, people ask questions. He's not waiting for the constitution. He is stifling an opportunity for these people to move on.
We'll have to come back to that issue. This is Cheche, and we're live on Citizen TV. Our SMS number is 22422, or you can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag Cheche. So tell us what you think the next 5 years will look like. How have we started that period?